Pause for a moment. The Muhammad you think you know, does he actually exist in the Quran? What if the Quran's Muhammad never fights wars, never builds a state, never tells his life story, and what if Muhammad in the Quran is not even a personal name, but a title? Then the real question is no longer, who is Muhammad? The real question becomes, who is the Quran actually talking about? And when hadith, tradition, and later history are set aside, the evidence that remains points in a direction few are prepared to face. A question that shakes everything a critical theologian. My work does not begin with belief, but with evidence. Archaeology, ancient manuscripts, linguistics, and raw historical data. Facts that do not change based on faith. This channel explores religions and belief systems at their roots. And in this video, I ask a single, simple question. Who is Muhammad in the Quran itself? It sounds straightforward, but the answer destabilizes centuries of assumed history. Is the Muhammad you know the same Muhammad found in the Quran? And if not, what does the evidence actually reveal? What if Muhammad never existed? For a moment, consider this carefully. What if the Muhammad known from biography, hadith, and later Islamic tradition is not the Muhammad of the Quran? What if the Quran's Muhammad is not an Arabian prophet, not a war leader, not a lawgiver, not a merchant, but something entirely different? And what if the evidence points not to Mecca, not to hadith, but somewhere else entirely, to Jesus? This is not an attack on Islam. This is not a rejection of faith. This is not theology. This is a historical exercise. Remove belief. Remove tradition. Let only evidence remain, stripping history to its core. Begin with a simple test. Remove the hadith. Remove the seerah. Remove the biographies written 150 to 250 years after the Quran. What remains? No archaeology for Mecca as described. No contemporary inscriptions naming a living prophet. No coins. No state documents. No eyewitness accounts. And suddenly, the Muhammad of hadith, the war commander, the lawgiver, the biographical prophet, vanishes completely. This is not controversial. This is academic consensus. Without hadith, Muhammad is historically unrecoverable. Who is Muhammad in the Quran? This makes the question unavoidable. The Quran mentions Muhammad only 4 times. There is no birth story, no childhood, no genealogy, no hometown, no timeline, no death scene. Most striking of all, Muhammad never speaks in his own voice. Allah speaks about Muhammad, always in the third person. Muhammad appears only as a messenger, the praised one in whom belief is placed, but never as a narrated human life. Muhammad. Name or title? Here language becomes decisive. Muhammad is not a personal name. It is a title. It means the praised one. And this changes everything, because in late antiquity there already existed a praised, exalted, glorified figure, and that figure had a name. Jesus. The Quran's strange duality. The Quran presents Jesus in 2 radically different forms. First, Jesus, son of Mary, born, performing miracles, speaking as a human prophet with a narrative history. Second, Muhammad, Ahmad, praised, exalted, confessional, proclaimed, but never narrated. This is not rivalry. This is not 2 prophets competing. This is one figure expressed in 2 theological registers. In late antique Christianity, this was normal. Jesus the man. Christ the exalted Lord. The Quran preserves this split Christology but never resolves it. Jesus is remembered narratively. Muhammad is preserved confessionally. Why the name Isa? Why is Jesus called Isa in Arabic? It is not a direct translation of Yeshua. It is not borrowed from Greek. Because this is not biography. This is theology in transmission. The Quran inherits Syriac Christianity, Aramaic language, hymnic and confessional Christology. Names become theological markers, not historical signatures. This explains why Jesus fits narrative memory. Muhammad fits confessional language. Neither fits later Islamic biography cleanly. When empire arrived, then history changed. Empires require law. Communities require precedent. Texts require interpretation. A title cannot govern an empire. So history is created. Title becomes person. Praise becomes lineage. Theology becomes biography. Confession becomes command. Muhammad becomes a man. This process is called historicization. It happens everywhere in religious history. The hadith Muhammad is not remembered. He is constructed. Why? Final prophet. This construction solves a problem. How do you separate Islam from Christianity while retaining its Christological core? The solution: declare Muhammad the final prophet. Finality does not emerge from history. It emerges from theological necessity. If Muhammad is final, Jesus is subordinated. Christology is neutralized. Authority is transferred. This is not revelation. This is doctrinal engineering. The final conclusion: so, is Jesus Muhammad? Not in the hadith sense, but in the Quranic sense. Yes, in function, not in biography. The Quranic Muhammad occupies the same theological role as the exalted Christ. Not a new Arabian prophet, but a praised, proclaimed, confessional figure. The Quran did not invent Muhammad. It inherited him as theology, not history. This is not an attack on Muslims. This is not a denial of faith. This is what remains when evidence is allowed to speak. Without hadith, Muhammad disappears. Christology remains. The Quran does not oppose Jesus. It reframes him. And only later does Islam give him a biography.